morning, 7th graders. It's Thursday, February 25th, and let's take a look at what we're doing today for math. Your learning target for today is I can solve 1- and 2-step equations, which is what we're going to be looking at number 1 in your Chapter 6 Equations Practice Test, your study guide today in Schoology. And in that practice test, that study guide, I'm actually going to go through a few problems with you here shortly. Just to remind you of a few things as you go through and prepare yourself for your test tomorrow on Friday. Then if you notice on the agenda number 2, it says study for your equations test. So once I go through some problems with you on the practice test and then you complete the practice test, then start studying for your test for Friday, right? Use your time in class today to make sure that you feel good about taking that test. So I have on here, complete the practice test unlimited times. So once you complete the practice test, if you're not happy with your score, it's an assignment grade. So you can actually go back unlimited times, like your quick check, and go back through and see what you did wrong the first time. Correct those mistakes. Identify what's causing you some problems if you are getting it wrong. Go back and look at your notes, right? Because you do have notes on problems that we've done over the last week, 2 weeks actually, that you can go back and check. So unlimited times on your practice test. And then also to study for your test, I still have the equations quizzes in Google Classroom, right? So here, for 1- and 2-step equations, 2-step equations, 1-step equations, you can go back to those and use that to study for your test. And then lastly, I put study notes and problems from the chapter. Go back and again, look at the notes that we took, practice some problems. And then lastly, number 3, if you can accomplish those 2 things in class today, you could always go to Alex. But I honestly think that for the most part during the class period today, you're going to be completing that practice test and then trying to study and get ready for the test on Friday. So what you're going to get out for me right now is you're going to get your lined paper and your pencil ready in front of you. And then you're also going to bring up Schoology. You're going to get that practice test open. And when it's open on your screen and you have your materials in front of you, then you're going to unpause this video and we're going to walk through a few together like I said. So pause right now, get what you need, and then I will meet you back here. Okay, so here's your practice test, right? This is what should be open in Schoology in front of you. Chapter 6, Solving Equations, Practice Test. So like I said, we're going to go through some together, and I will tell you exactly which ones we're going to do. So on your lined paper, these are the problems that we're going to go over together right now on the practice test. We're going to do number 8 together. We're going to do 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So we're going to cover those so I can help you out a little bit with your study guide. And so as I do these in front of you on lined paper, you're going to also use your lined paper, but follow along in Schoology as well. So once we go through the problems, you can select those correct answers. So let's take a look at number 8 first. Okay, so number 8 is a 1-step equation, and it's a division 1-step equation. We haven't done a ton of these, but I thought for sure on the practice test, let me go through and one more time show you how it's done. So really what it looks like is this, because it's hard when you type it. Sometimes it looks like a funky little fraction, but really this is what it looks like, right? N is in the numerator, -3 is in the denominator, n over -3 equals -15. So we've talked a lot about properties when we solve equations, and this division 1-step, you're going to use multiplication to solve for it. So we need to figure out what that numerator is, and always think about, like, what can I take and divide by -3 and get a -15? Really, that's what you're saying in the back of your head. Now, to show the steps and use that multiplication to solve, this is what I'm doing. I need to get rid of that -3. So I'm going to multiply by -3. And really it's -3 over 1 that I'm multiplying by. but you're using that multiplication. You're going to balance this out. On the other side of the equal sign, you're also going to multiply by -3. And so what happens on the left, right? This is a fraction I can actually reduce. These -3's are going to cross out and cancel out and give you 1. So you end up with 1n equals, and then -15 times a -3. Well, 15 times 3 I know is 45, and then I just check my integer rules. 2 negatives give me a positive, so this should be a positive 45 answer here. So what I just did is I solved for the numerator. So if I were to check this really quick, check it. If I put that 45 in the numerator and I divided it by that -3, am I getting -15? And I am. 45 divided by 3 is 15. I have 1 negative. It's a negative answer. It does balance on both sides. So I found that missing numerator. That missing numerator was 45. So you'll see one of those on your test on Friday. Number 15. So I'm just jumping around here. I picked out a few. I picked out one step problem to do with you and a 2-step problem to do with you. So number 15, 1 plus 2n equals -27. So here we've talked about how you should always locate your variable, and your variable is right here in the middle this time. So I see the n. I notice that it's adding 1 to it. Now, we've talked always with 2-step equations, you want to eliminate first whatever is being added or subtracted to the problem. So we need to get rid of this +1 right here. That's +1. That's what we need to get rid of. So that means underneath it, we're going to subtract 1. And so I'm going to balance and go to the other side of the equal sign and subtract 1. +1, -1, 1 and a -1. That's 0 right there. That is gone, and I can cross that out. -27 and -1. I have 2 negatives here, right? So 2 negatives, you add together and it stays -28. So if you were living in Alaska and it was 27 degrees below 0 out and the temperature dropped another degree, then you're at -28. Okay, I'm not done, right? I've only completed one step. So now I'm going to bring down what's left. I'm going to bring down that 2n, and I'm going to bring down that -28. And so here's my final step. So in my final step here, I see that I'm multiplying 2 times n, and our goal is to isolate the variable, isolate n, which means the opposite of multiplication is division. You use that division property of equality to solve, so you're going to divide by 2. When I do that, 2 divided by 2 is 1n, which is exactly what I need, or you can just say n equals -28 divided by 2. Well, 28 divided by 2 I know is 14, and I've got 1 negative there, so my answer is -14. 1n equals -14. So a 1-step problem at number 8, a 2-step problem at number 15. So what you should have done on your line paper is show the work on both of those, just like I did. I'm doing that to help you out. And then in Schoology, you should also scroll down, find number 8, answer that, right? You now have it, n equals 45. And then scroll down again and find number 15 and answer that, n equals -14. So you have 2 answers already on your study guide on your practice test. Again, tomorrow on the test, you will see both of these type of problems. So these last 5 down here are from chapter 5. And so every test that you take, there's always a review section on the test. So it just keeps what we've done throughout the year fresh in your mind. So this is from chapter 5. We look and see at number 16 and number 17, these are distributive property problems. And so remember when we did these, I created rainbows at the top, right? So like in number 16, this -2 on the outside of the parentheses, remember, I have to distribute that and multiply it by everything inside. I have to multiply it by this x, and I also need to multiply it by this 5. So I draw the arrows to help remind me to do that. So this is -2 times 4x plus negative 2 times 5. Negative 2 times x, negative 2x, plus negative 2 times 5, that is negative 10. And that is all I can do. With distributive property, you're just simplifying. And I can't simplify this expression anymore. That's it. Number 17, we're going to do the same exact thing. Negative 5 times n plus 9. Right, so I need to distribute that negative 5 to both values inside the parentheses. This becomes negative 5 times n plus negative 5 times 9. Okay, negative 5 times n. Negative 5n plus negative 5 times 9. Multiply, you get 45, and one negative is negative. Negative 5n plus a negative 45. Again, that's final. That's as simplified as I can take it at that point. So for 16 and 17, right, it's those reminders on how you use distributive property. You now see again how to do them. You should have also wrote the work on your paper for this, and then you can select those answers in Schoology on your practice test for those. 18, 19, and 20 are combined like terms. And so when we worked through combined like terms, we talked about grouping together the ones that were alike. So for example, in 18, we have 8m, and actually, you know what? I think I'm going to put square around it. And we also have negative 3m, and I'm going to put a square around that. These are like terms. They're the exact same term. They both have an m next to it, and that's why I drew squares. Not the best squares by any means, but I drew squares around them to show that those are alike. Now I have this minus 6 here. So I'm going to use a different color, and I'm going to draw a circle around that. That is not a like term with the m variables. It's on its own. And so remember, we called that a constant. It doesn't have a variable. It stands by itself. Well, let's combine these like terms that we've got going on here. So 8m minus 3m, that is 5m. And then just this minus 6, I can't do anything else with it. There's nothing else to combine it with, so it just gets brought into the simplified problem or expression, 5m minus 6. That's it, done. I can't simplify this anymore. 5m minus 6. We're going to do the same thing for 19 and 20. So what I'm going to, since I'm using blue right now, for number 19, this 4x plus 8 plus 2x minus 7, I am going to use a circle, and I'm going to circle my constants, my like terms. So the positive 8 and the negative 7 there. Switch back to the other color. And then I'm going to box in my like terms of x's. So the positive 4x and the positive 2x. So I'm going to combine 4x plus 2x. I have 6 x's there, 6x. Plus, okay, now I'm going to combine my constants that are there. Positive 8 and a negative 7, or really it's just 8 minus 7, 1. So 6x plus 1. Final. Again, as simplified as I can take that expression. One last one, number 20. So you have x plus 6 minus 3x minus 8. Don't forget, when you have a variable that stands by itself, there's a 1 in front of it, right? So if you need to put that 1 there because you know you're going to forget, then write it in so you see it. Because when you go to combine like terms right now, right, so I'm going to box in my 1x, I'm going to box in my negative 3x, right? So I need to be able to combine those here in just a second. Also, right, my constants, I'm going to draw circles around, so positive 6 and negative 8. All right, so let's start combining. I have a positive 1 and a negative 3 with my x's here. Positive 1, negative 3. Negative 2x. Okay, constants, plus. I have a positive 6 and I have a negative 8 here. Positive 6, negative 8, negative 2. Final, negative 2x plus a negative 2. So when you're combining your like terms, just be very careful with those positives and negatives that go with those number values and use your integer rules. So once again, these 5 for chapter 5, you're going to see on the test tomorrow. I just walk through these. You should be able to go into Schoology and answer those now that you have the correct answers and you remember how to do them. And now at this point, it's up to you. You need to go back to the other problems in Schoology on the practice test and finish the practice test out to get prepared for your test tomorrow. Okay, so again, don't forget, there's a list here of other items you can use to study for your test. And last reminder as well before I go today, I added on the coming up here, the end of third trimester is March 19th. So you're now talking a little over 3 weeks. So knowing that that's coming up, making sure that you are doing everything you can to be where you need to be with your math grade. Have a great Thursday. I will see you Friday morning.